Alright guys, what I'm going to talk to you guys about tonight is something that is really close to my heart. Something, in fact, that this week really changed a lot of things in my life and the way I look at things at life. But before I get started, I just want to share with you guys something. And I don't know if you guys heard about this, but I think this is pretty awesome, pretty funny, whatever you want to say. So pretty much, an Arab sheikh, this Arab sheikh, richest bloke in the world, not richest bloke in the world, but he's pretty rich. He owns, as you see in the last paragraph, this is copy and pasted from Emerson, by the way, just so you know. He owns 200 cars. That's a lot of cars. He has a motor house. Right? And it's 1 millionth the size of the earth. So to scale to the size of the earth. His house, read it. The last line. His motor home built in the shape of the world, which is exactly 1 millionth the size of the globe.
Where are you reading this?
The last line, very last line. Alright, now this is just some background about this guy. Now this guy decided one day that he wanted on one of his islands to engrave his name into the sand. So, I'm not going to read it for you guys, but pretty much, Hamad bin Hamdan al-Hayyan had men work on sand graffiti which spelled out Hamad for weeks on his private Abu Dhabi island called Al-Futayisi, the Daily Mail reports. Each letter is 1 kilometer tall and the full name measures 3.2 kilometers from the H to the D. Can you guys believe that? This is seen in satellites all over the world. They can see the name engraved in the sand. Now go to one of the next pictures, thanks. See, that's a satellite image of his name engraved into the sand. 3 kilometers big.
That is awesome.
Okay? Now, I've talked to some people about it. I've gotten a lot of responses. Some people like Michael saying, wow, this guy, what a legend. Engraved his name into an island 3.2 kilometers long. And I'm going to say, I kind of felt that first. I was like, wow, this guy, wow. Honestly, it's so incredible. How incredible is that? Isn't that pretty incredible? And other people I've met, yeah, that's pretty cool, but what's the point? What's the point of that?
It's like putting it in a tree.
Why I'm showing this to you guys, if you can go to the next one, you see a bigger one of the islands in general. It's humongous. It's really big, guys. Now, why am I sharing with you this? Because it's awesome. Also, this week I've been thinking a lot. And, something I really see that all us humans share is that we want to have some purpose in our life. We want to have some sort of legacy that we leave behind. And, even if you are the richest guy in the world or someone who's close to being the richest guy in the world, or if you're the dirtiest, poorest peasant in the world, wherever you may be in the ladder of humans, no matter where you are, everyone wants to leave some sort of legacy. Everyone wants to be at the end of their life to say, hey, I had a purpose in my life. And I was thinking this week as I had to work hard for the first time in my life with my uncle, labouring away, and then being sold as a slave to Michael to help him as well. And I was thinking, I look at all these people around me, I'm like, not you guys, but all the people in Parramatta, what's the point of working? Honestly, think about it. What's the point of working? Tell me, why do you guys work? We have a lot of workers here. Who works? What's the point of why do you work? Money. Money? Why do you want money?
To buy a house.
So you can what? So you can live. Exactly. So you work your whole life to buy a house, generally speaking, to get married, to start a family, to have kids. And why do you have kids? The kids are going to grow up bearing your name and going to grow up exactly how you grew up. They're going to grow up 20 years of their life studying, preparing for life, and then once they hit the age of 20, they're going to start working so they could move out, buy a own house, get a family, and have kids and repeat the whole cycle over and over again. That, for me, when I look at that, it seemingly has no purpose in life. It seemingly, there's no reason to it. And you know what? I see that in every person. Every person knows this. Everyone knows that that cycle is just a pointless cycle. That's why every person tries somehow to end their life with some sort of purpose. Everyone wants to make some sort of impact in the world. No one just goes around the daily habit like a robot, waking up, doing this, doing that, and then going to sleep. People have some sort of idea they want to impact the earth. This guy quite literally impacted the earth by engraving his name into the island. And that's why I was showing you this example. This guy, with all his money, all his power he has, he felt he needed to leave a legacy behind. He felt even though he had all these things around him, he still needed, at the end of the day, to be able to say, there was some purpose in my life. I've left an impact on the earth. And the reason is that no matter what you do, no matter how much you do, no matter if every single country in the world reshape their cities to spell out your name, all these things, no matter how much purpose and power you supposedly find in your life, at the end, it's not going to satisfy. And I'm not speaking from my own words because I'm very young and I haven't experienced a lot, but I'm speaking from the Word of God. I'm speaking from what King Solomon tells us. King Solomon, the richest and wisest king that ever lived. He himself, at the end of life, says, we're talking to Michael about it, that it's all in vain. He had worked hard, he had conquered, he had kingdoms, he was rich, he had built the temple of God where God's glory was inside, he had done all these things. And at the end of the day, he goes, all these works that I see men doing, it's all in vain. And the truth is, until we realize what we're doing in life, and until we realize that we're missing out on the main reason we exist, we're going to be stuck in this cycle. We're going to be stuck in this self-satisfying attitude that will never be satisfied. One thing that I get shocked from my own self is that I can tell myself if I have this much, I'll be satisfied. But even if I get that much in 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, I would want more. I don't know about you guys. I'm just speaking for myself. I know when I eat, I could tell you I'm done. I can't eat anything. But in about 30 minutes, I probably could add another plate. And I would want to. This is a silly example of a much bigger scale, problem that humans have. And I believe this is because we do have a purpose in life. And we are meant to be seeking out this purpose. We are meant to be seeking what we were created for. We are meant to be seeking this. But the problem is, it's so easy to fill that hole with so many things of the world. It's so easy to look away in the wrong direction. And that's why I feel really sad sometimes when I look at my mates and I know that they have no purpose. I know one day they're going to wake up and look at their life they've lived so far and say, well, that was pointless. I'm here now. I've worked to where I've wanted to get to, and I've got what I've wanted, but what now? And the reason is, guys, we exist for the purpose to be in a relationship with God. That's why we exist. And that's why people have this something in them that they have to keep hungering for something. We want to hunger for some sort of purpose, some sort of legacy. But the truth is that we should be hungering for God. Now, this isn't what I'm not talking about this tonight, but it's connected to what I have to talk about, and I just thought it was really awesome what happened, and it's a really great example. So if we can turn to John chapter 9. John chapter 9. Now, you need everyone to have a Bible, at least one between two. John chapter 9, preferably paper, not iPads or iPods, because they're not from God, but we need paperback Bibles, one between two. What I'm going to talk to you guys about tonight, and it's 5 key points, and I need you guys to focus on these 5 key points. John 9. And John 9, I'm not going to read a lot of it, but you need to understand the background of the story. What I'm going to talk to you guys about today is Jesus the Shepherd. Jesus the Shepherd. A lot of times we talk about, and we all know that Jesus is associated with the figure of a shepherd. We talk about it all the time. We know the story about when a shepherd had 100 sheep and one got lost. He left the 99 and went after the one. We know all the time God associates himself as a shepherd, calling Israel my flock, my people. These are my people. But what does that mean for us today? And that's what we're going to look at. So we've got 5 key points that we need to look at. But firstly, let's just look at the background of the story. So, chapter 9, and Michael, can you read for us verse 1 to verse 6? Thank you. Yeah, verse 1 to 6, yeah.
Now Jesus passed by. He saw a man who was blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, neither this man nor his parents sinned, but that the works of God should be revealed in him. I must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. The night is coming when no one can work. As long as I'm in the world, I am the light of the world. When he had said these things, he spat on the ground and made clay with his saliva, and he anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay.
Now, I don't want to go into this too much because honestly, that's a whole nother sermon to focus on this, what happened here. But this is just so we understand the context of the next chapter. Quite simply, Jesus is in Jerusalem. Some Pharisees come up to him and they see a blind man. And you've got to understand, in Jewish culture, if someone was sick from birth, it meant someone being sick generally either meant that they sinned or their fathers had sinned and the punishment had fallen onto the children. That's it. That's all they understood. So when they see this blind man, they went up to Jesus saying, show us what the answer is. Tell us if you are the Son of God, you should be able to know these things. Why is this man sick? Why is this man blind? Why cannot he see? Who sinned in his life? And I think it's wonderful what Jesus answers here. He goes, no one sinned for him to be blind, but that God's work can be revealed in him. That God's glory can be manifested in his life. And you see this man, it goes on for the rest of the chapter, what happens to him? He goes, Jesus tells him to wash in the pool and he gets healed. And a big drama starts happening. All the Pharisees are saying, what's going on? This bloke was blind, now he can see. They bring his parents to a trial. And their parents are like, look, we don't know anything. All we know that our son was born blind and now he can see. That's all we know. Ask our son. They ask his son and they say, this man came up to me and healed me. What else do you want me to say? And they start saying, they don't understand what's happening. They go, we don't think this man is from God, but how can he be healing people? And I think we're going to start off with verse 31. And this is what I think the man answered and said, all right, verse 31, I'm pretty sure this is what the man is saying. Now we know that God, he's not sinners, but if any man be a worshipper of God and does his will, him he will hear. So we got here established that this guy is saying, well, Jesus has done a work of God, and he obviously must be living out the will of God for God to hear him. And this is the starting point for us. Before we can go into that, Jesus is our shepherd, we've got to start off somewhere. You've got to start off here. If we're seeking God, we have to seek in the right places. If we're reaching out to God, we've got to reach in the right places. We have to be doing it in God's will to find him, to hear him, to have his answer. And what's God's will? What's God's will? Specifically in this context. I believe God's will, Jesus established a couple chapters back. We haven't even started the 5 points. So this is just background, guys. So let's go to John 6:40. John 6:40. In fact, you guys don't have to turn with me, but you might as well. John 6:40. Now, you got this man saying, only if you're doing the will of God will God hear you. And let's see what Jesus says about the will of God. In John 6:40 says, and this is the will of him that sent me. That is God the Father. That everyone which sees the Son and believes on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at that last day. The will of God is simple, guys. To believe on his Son. And that's the first point. Before we can start anything, before we can move on, you have to understand the fundamentals of all Christianity. And that's the will of God, and that's to believe on the Son of God. And that's exactly what we see, what happens to the blind man. So let's go back, sorry, you meant to keep a bookmark, back to John chapter 9. And And what happens? In verse 34, John chapter 9, verse 34, the man had answered back the Pharisees saying, look, I don't know, this man healed me, and he must have been from God because God doesn't hear sinners. Now in verse 34, they answered and said unto him, thou wast altogether born in sins, and you teach us, and they cast him out. So the Pharisees threw out this poor blind man who had been able to, God, Jesus did a miracle for him and healed him. They cast him out. They said, how dare you teach us, you who are in sin. And Jesus heard about this, and he went and found him. So Jesus went out and found this man. And something I believe with all my heart, with every fiber of my being, is that if you seek God, if you reach out to God, God will reach out to you. I believe that 100%. And you see this man who stood firm to what he believed. He stood firm that he knew that this man was from God. He knew that this man who healed him was not a sinner. He knew that this man was holy, and he sought him. But Jesus is the one that found him. And you see what Jesus asked him. Do you believe on the Son of God? Do you believe on the Son of God? And the man says, who is he, Lord, that I might believe on him? And Jesus said unto him, you have both seen him, and it is he that talks with you. And he said, Lord, I believe, and he worshipped him. Now guys, this is your first point, is that you must believe on the Son of God and worship him. I think this is so incredible that Jesus says it. You have both seen, and it's he that talks with you today. Guys, everyone here has heard and has seen Jesus. Maybe not physically, but you have seen what the Bible has said about Jesus. You have seen it. It cannot be said to you in any clearer fashion except what's in the Bible. And we have both seen and we've heard, and there's no excuse for us. We've been given the option. God has given you this grace and mercy that you have the chance to reach out to him. And if you reach out to him, Jesus will find you and he'll grab you. And like he said in John chapter 6, that he will raise you up on that last day. That you will have everlasting life with him. And I know, guys, I say this maybe every message about believing on the Son of God. That's because it's the most important thing. And without that, there's no point in me continuing. Because if you don't have that, then the rest means nothing to you. So that's the first point, to believe on the Son of God and to worship him. Now, in the last verse of chapter 9, Jesus says something very interesting. And I actually want to hear your input on this verse, because it's really interesting what Jesus says. He says, follow me, verse 41. Jesus said unto them, if you were blind, you should have no sin. But now you say, we see, therefore your sin remains. Do you guys get it? He's saying, you're telling me that you can see, therefore you have sin, but if you are blind, you have no sin. Doesn't really make any sense, honestly, because everything we understand from the Bible is that the term blind means a sinner, right? Someone who is blind either physically or spiritually, doesn't that generally mean someone who is a sinner? Isn't that right? Isn't that how we generally talk about these subjects? Don't we talk about it that, the blind shouldn't lead the blind, that you are blind, your faith is making you blind, you don't have enough faith and you can't see. All this stuff about being blind is associated with sin. But Jesus is saying here, if you were blind, you should have no sin. What does that mean, guys? What does this mean? That we should stop sinning? Anyone else? No? No? Okay. Okay, it's better. I'll teach you. Anyway, I'll tell you what it means. It's better. So, look, when I read this, it's pretty clear to me. I didn't read the rest of the chapter, but I encourage you guys to read the rest of the chapter when you're at home. And what I believe what Jesus is saying here, he's not saying to be blind and walk into stuff. But he's saying you have to acknowledge your state of blindness. Because he's talking to the Pharisees here who were blind. But he said, you say you can see. He's saying, recognize the state which you're in now. Recognize the state. And the truth is, all Christians, not all Christians, all man without God is blind. And no matter how much you believe you can see, the sin is still in you. no matter how much you convince yourself that you can see, you are still with sin. And the blind man, he knew where he stood with God. He knew that he was blind. He knew that his sin remained. And this is the second point I want to make. Know where you stand with God. Know where you are with God. Know the state which you see with your eyes. And don't be blind. Really test yourself. Test your heart. You've got to understand these things that, don't be like these Pharisees. These Pharisees were model citizens. You will not find better citizens than these guys. These guys were doing charity, were helping people, they were teaching, but they were blind. Jesus called them blind. And they believed they could see. I'm sorry I haven't gone into the main part yet about Jesus being the shepherd. But I believe these are essential because he follows on with Jesus being your shepherd. Because if you don't understand that we are blind without Jesus Christ, and you will stay blind unless you believe on him, he is not your shepherd. He is only your shepherd if you believe on him. And you recognize the state of your blindness, if you recognize the state of the sin in your life, of the nature of sin and how it has dominion over you, he cannot be your shepherd. You got that? Yeah? Yes? Cool. Let's move on. Let's get into a bit more positive stuff now. I had to clear that out of the way so you guys do not be deceived and you guys understand what it means for Jesus to be your shepherd. You have to believe on him and worship him. And you must acknowledge the sin in your life. So let's go first, chapter 10. Now, chapter 10 is probably one of my favorite chapters in the whole Bible. Really, if you're a Christian and you read this chapter, it should uplift you to places where you can never imagine. But if you're not Christian and you're reading this, I'm telling you, you should be trembling and have fear in your hearts. Honestly, you should. Because even though it's wonderful for Christians, it's pretty dooming for non-believers. So let's start. Verse 1 and 2 verse 3. Michael, thank you.
Most assuredly I say to you, he who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, who climbs up by some other way, the same a thief and a robber. But he who enters by the door is a shepherd of the sheep. To him the doorkeeper opens, and the sheep hear his voice. And he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out.
Now, before we go into it, in my version, whatever version you have, the first words would say most assuredly, or verily, verily, or what else? Does anyone have anything else in truly, truly? You got to understand before we start that was kind of revolutionary, that's the word, thank you, saying, to say verily, verily, or truly, truly. Because usually, a rabbi or a teacher would say truly. He would say it once. Yeah, exactly. But Jesus said it twice. He's making emphasis on the truth of his words. He's saying, this is the truth. You will not find truth outside of my words. And so what is he saying? I think it's so encouraging. This is the third point. This part, and there's so many more verses we could look into the whole chapter. And I want to make it clear for you guys to understand the context of those times. I want you guys to imagine a pen, a shepherd, where sheep are chilling out and doing sheep stuff. I don't know what they do. But let's say there's a bunch of sheep chilling out in a pen. Or in those times, it was quite common to put them in caves or whatever they used to put them in. But also, so just so you know, it was quite common in those times they didn't actually have doors. Like they would put him in a cave and there was no door to the cave. And you know what the shepherd would do? He would sleep at the door so no wolf, no bear could enter and kill the sheep. And on top of that, it was his job to guard it. And later on, he talks about the hired hand. And he talks about the hired hand, like quite simply, if Lily told me to look after, no, not Lily, because she'll kill me. But let's say Isaac told me to look after his jacket, right? And he's like, look after it, bro, I'm just going away. And some gangsters come up to me and like, hey, bro, give us the jacket, it's a really cool jacket. And yeah, I'll be like, all right, bro, it's my mates, don't do anything. But if they push me, I'll be like, you know what, just take it, I don't want any trouble. It's not mine, just take it. But if it was my jacket, man, I would go to the ends of the earth for my jacket. I don't know about you guys, I love my jacket. See, look, it's even ripped, and I still have it. This jacket is personal. It's my legacy. So if anyone touches it, that's it, man, they're gone. I'll take them out. No, I won't take them out. But it's the same sort of imagery. And this is what he's telling these people. These sheep are not looked after by a hired hand. Because you know, a hired hand, when a lion comes or a bear comes, they'll leave them and they'll look after their own life. But Jesus said a whole new level. He said, these are my sheep. I chose them. I found them and I call them by my name. And he will not leave us. And this is the third point I want to focus on, is that he calls you by your name. Jesus Christ calls you by your name. If that just doesn't make you feel so loved and so great and beyond words, I don't know what will. Jesus Christ, the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, who created the whole world, by him was the world created, and for him was the world created, says that I call you by your name. I can't say that any more clearer. It's like me going up to ants and saying, each one of you have a special place in my heart. Each one of you has a name in my heart. Every single one of you. And I'll look after you. And I will lay my life down for you. Do you guys understand? How ridiculous would it be if I told you today, hey, I'm dying for my ant. I have a pet ant in my home and I'm going to die for it. Isn't that, there's no comprehension in that. But that's how much God loves us. That's how much he loves us. That he would lay his life down for us even though he was the king of the universe. And there's so many more verses that go through this. In verse 9, I am the door. There is no other way. And if anyone enters, he shall be saved. And I tell you guys that salvation is essential. Because without salvation, you're condemned. And I tell you, we talk about, Jesus always talks about life. He always tells you, I'll give you life. In me, you will have life. Believe on me and you will have life. Let me tell you guys something. When Jesus talks about life, generally he's not talking about this life. Jesus is always talking about the bigger picture. When he tells you that you're going to have life, he's talking about everlasting life. Life with him. The life that he has, he will be giving to us. In verse 11, I am the good shepherd, and the good shepherd gives his life for the sheep. That's the shepherd that looks after you. That is the shepherd that calls you by his name. That he lays his life down for you. Verse 11, I am the good shepherd, and the good shepherd gives his life for the sheep. Now, you guys don't have to turn to me. I'm just going to turn to a couple passages, just two. You guys can follow me if you want. Ezekiel 34. And once again, I want to make that comparison, and I want to make it essential to you guys. Who is this good shepherd that is dying for you? Who is this shepherd that says, I laid my life down for you? It was a voluntary thing. He did it out of his own life. This king of the universe said, I have the power to command, to give life, to take it away, and I have laid my life down. Who is this? Who is he? In Ezekiel 34, if I can find it. Huh? Oh, I don't know. I have to find it. Sorry. Ezekiel 34, verse 23 and 24. I will set up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them, even my servant David. And he shall feed them, and he shall be their shepherd. And I, the Lord, will be their God, and my servant David, the prince among them. I, the Lord, have spoken it. Jesus Christ is this David that has been set over us. He is a prince that has been set over all of us today. And we know that when the Old Testament prophets talk about David, it talks about the Messiah. And we know that the Messiah is Jesus Christ. And this Jesus Christ has been set as a prince over us. But what has he done for us? What exactly has this prince done for us? Every time I think about this, I don't know what to say. I really don't. Because I'm just flabbergasted. I'm speechless for what has been done for me. Let's go to Psalms 22. So, just jumping a bit over the place, but Psalms 22. So God has set this shepherd over us. Over you and me. He has set this shepherd. And this shepherd is our prince. But let's look what happened to the shepherd. Psalms 22. In the first verse, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me and from the words of my roaring? Oh my God, I cry in the daytime, but you hear not. In the night season, and I am not silent. Right here, we all know this saying. When Jesus Christ was on that cross, he called out, my God, why have you forsaken me? And by crying that out, he applied this whole psalm upon himself. And I'm not going to read the whole psalm, but I just want to focus on a bit of the essential parts. From verse 14, I am poured out like water, and all my bones out of joint. My heart is like wax. It is melted in the midst of my bowels. Bowels. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue cleaves to my jaws. And you have brought me into the dust of death. For dogs have compassed me. My assembly of the wicked have enclosed me. They pierce my hands and my feet. I may tell all my bones, they look and stare upon me. They part my garments upon them and cast lots upon my vestures. But be not far from me, O Lord, O my strength. Haste you to help me. Deliver my soul from the sword, my darling from the power of the dog. Save me from the lion's mouth. Right here we have Jesus. This is what he was crying out upon that cross. Yes, Jesus was God. He was manifested in the human flesh. But upon that cross, the whole sin of the world was put upon his shoulders. All the sorrows of the world was put upon him. It says he bore our sorrows. And I can't even begin to imagine my sorrows at one moment being put on me. If all my sorrows in my life that I've had, am having now, and will have, be put on me at one moment, I don't think I handle it. I'd probably die instantaneously. I couldn't handle it. And I don't think anyone could say that they could. But Jesus took all the sorrows of the world, all the sins of the world upon that cross for his sheep. And he laid his life down for his sheep, for his flock. He put his life down and he put it on his shoulders. And he reached to a stage where he was so separated from God because of that sin that he said, my God, why have you forsaken me? And I think that's incredible because God promises us imperfect people, us sinners, us people who never live according to the will of God, he promises us that he will never forsake us. But Jesus upon that cross said, why have you forsaken me? And just to begin to understand what it means when the shepherd lays his life down for his sheep. And I hope you guys are understanding what I'm trying to tell you and how big this sacrifice was and how much God loves you and how much Jesus loves you that he put his life down for you. If we go back to John 10. And finally he says in verse 14, I am the good shepherd and know my sheep and am known of mine. And I am known of mine. So the third point was that he knows us by name and he has laid his life down for us. But the fourth point is now upon us. We've talked about Jesus in the first 3 points, but now God has set a responsibility for us now. Let me tell you something, you can always rely on Jesus' work. It's finished, it's accomplished, it's complete. There's no reason to doubt his work upon that cross. But the fourth point is where we become involved, where now we are called to do something. If we read 4 and 5, back to 4 and 5. And when he puts forth his own sheep, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. And a stranger will they not follow, but will flee from him, for they know not the voice of a stranger. This is talking about us, just so you know. If you're a proclaimed Christian, if you say you've put your faith in Jesus Christ and he's become your shepherd, are you following him? It says that he walks before you in everything you do. He walks before you, in front of you, that you will follow him. And I think when I read this, I don't know what to say because I know in my own life I haven't done this. That he says they do not follow the voice of a stranger. The voice of a stranger. The voice of a stranger is the world. It could be your flesh. It could be Satan. It could be anything. Anything that's not Jesus Christ is the voice of a stranger. And this is what I want you guys to challenge yourselves with today. Are you following Jesus Christ and the path that he's leading you on? Are you following your shepherd, or are you following the voice of a stranger? Let me tell you, if you follow the voice of a stranger, it might give you some satisfaction now. All bad things, all the things, not even bad things, anything in this world promises you satisfaction. And not necessarily sin, but everything in this world. But the road and the end destination of that road is destruction. And destruction, I'm not talking about death in this life, even though it can be applied for this world, even though we can talk about the effects of sin in today. It's talking about destruction, eternity. It's talking about eternal destruction. And I don't know, sometimes I look at myself, I'm like, why am I so stupid? Why didn't I follow the voice of Jesus? It was so obvious at that point, if I just opened my eyes for a second, that every other path would lead me downwards. And only the path of Jesus would lead me upwards. Sometimes I feel like the biggest idiot. Honestly, I feel so dumb when I read something like this. And Jesus is saying quite simply, just follow me. He's saying, I'm your shepherd. Listen to my voice. I've laid my life down for you. Just listen to my voice and do not listen to the voice of strangers. And I just look at some situations in my life, I'm like, and you know what? Jesus' voice is always there. He always puts his voice in every situation in your life. He'll put a voice, but it's our choice to ignore that. And I think that's so humbling, first of all, that God has made this relationship with us. That he has given us this privilege, that it's a two-way sort of thing. That Jesus Christ is your shepherd, but now you must follow him. It's no longer law but grace. God has given us this privilege. And I think, first of all, we should be humbled by that and thank God for that. And secondly, I just want you guys to look at your own lives. And firstly, I want to talk about spiritual things, and secondly, about physical things. But look at your own life. Think about certain times where you did not heed the voice of Christ, where you did not follow that shepherd. And look where it took you. I'm not going to share anything personally, but I can think of numerous times that's happened to me, where I've sought my own things, I've sought the voice of a stranger, and it's led me to places where I never should have been, and where God doesn't want me to be. And I think sometimes as Christians we cry out to God and saying, God, why am I in this situation? Why have you put me in this circumstance? And I think God's saying, well, I offered you the path of Jesus Christ. Follow your shepherd and you'll be fine. But oftentimes we go our own path and then we start crying. In verse 7 and verse 8, let's read, verily, verily, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. Once again, guys, do not hear the thieves and the robbers. Do not hear them. And we all know this verse. This verse is probably one of the best said verses. Verse 10, the thief comes not, but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life and they might have it more abundantly. Jesus Christ speak. I'm telling you, when you follow the voice of a stranger, he's only leading you on to steal from you, to kill you, and to destroy you. But when you follow your shepherd, he's leading you to life and life more abundant. And I get pierced in the heart sometimes so much when I look at my life. And it's for all of us today is a challenge to look and say, what is the voice we're listening to today? Right now, look at your circumstance. Just look at today, what you've done today. Were you following the voice of your shepherd? Finally, guys, I didn't speak too long, I hope. So first point is believe on the Son of God. Second point is realize where you stand with God. Thirdly, that we have a shepherd that knows us by name and that has laid his life down for us. And fourth, we should only hear his voice. We should only follow him. And the fifth point, and the last one I want to make with you guys, is that Jesus is the only way. Jesus is the only way. You can try your whole life to work around Jesus. You can try in everything in your life to just go against everything that God has set for you. In the end, Jesus is still the only way. No matter how much you convince yourself, no matter how much you try to force that way, Jesus is still the only way. In verse 25, and I'm really saddened when I hear this voice, read these verses. I told you, this is Jesus speaking, and you believe not. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me. But you believe not, because you are not of my sheep, as I said unto you. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish. Neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. My Father which gave them to me is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand. Now, first of all, this is why I said to start. If you're a Christian, honestly, if you believe in the Son of God, Jesus Christ is in your life, He has washed you, He has made you clean into a new man, these verses should be uplifting you right now. I don't know any verses more encouraging than these, that you are in God's hands and nothing in this world can pluck you out of them. Nothing. But, my friends, you guys are all my friends. If you are not His sheep, if you have not believed on Jesus Christ, like these Pharisees He was speaking to, they had not believed and they were not His sheep. They will perish. They are on the way to the road to destruction. So you need to realize today, are you a sheep of Jesus Christ? Is He your shepherd? And please don't tell me, don't think about it in 1 second, give me an answer. You need to study yourself, examine yourself, see in your heart where you truly stand with God. Just because you might have been born in a Christian family does not make you a sheep of Jesus Christ. Just because you come to youth group every Friday night, or even if you come to church every Sunday, does not make Jesus your shepherd. None of these things make you a shepherd. Because like I said, the Pharisees were the most holy people. You will not meet more holy people than these Pharisees. But these people were not the sheep of God. So examine your hearts today. Examine them, because this is so essential for your life. This is the most important thing you can do in your life tonight, is to examine yourself and study your life and say, am I a sheep of Jesus Christ? Is Jesus Christ my shepherd?